Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone. Great to have you in our YouTube stream. And today we will talk about Software Update Manager. Our expert speaker for today is Dr. Boris Rubart, who is Product Manager in Cloud Lifecycle Management. My name is Larissa Brinkman from the SAP Global User Groups organization, and I'm your host for today. We kindly ask you to place your questions in the live chat, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. The replay will be available after the same link immediately after the session. This session is part of the SAP Cloud Lifecycle Webcast series, and I will place a link in the chat for your convenience. With this, I wish you great interaction and kindly ask Boris to take over.
Thank you very much, Larissa, and warm welcome from my side as well. As you have heard, my name is Boris. I work as a product manager for SAP in Walldorf, focusing on the software update manager, our topic for today, and on system conversion topics. Today, we have the overview and the scenarios of that tool, Software Update Manager. And as mentioned, this is part of a larger series where we will have sessions with details as well. Let us have a look on the agenda. I have prepared 3 sections for us today. First, we will look on the question, what is this Software Update Manager used for? Typically, it is abbreviated as SUM or SUM tool. The second section will be the question, how do I use the Software Update Manager? And the third one is mentioning things also relevant on the Software Update Manager. Not a surprise, we start with section number 1 here. What is Software Update Manager used for? So it is about software maintenance, and the general statements are the Software Update Manager. The SUM tool is the tool for system maintenance, the central tool for system maintenance. It's a tool that reduces effort, that reduces the update processing time of such a maintenance event, and it is capable to reduce the system downtime as well. The third bullet point here is the tool is constantly improved and enhanced. So, well, that's the kind of advertising for the tool with some nice statements, not real explaining what the tool is and what we see as maintenance. What is a maintenance? So we will elaborate on this part in the following sections as well. So what is the Software Update Manager used for? What kind of systems are being handled by the tool? The tool is for system maintenance for all systems based on either the application server ABAP or systems based on application server Java or systems that we call a dual stack system. Of course, you know, a dual stack is a system where we have the application server ABAP and Java on the same database with the same system ID. So you use the Software Update Manager if you plan to work on, for example, an SAP ERP system or an SAP S/4HANA system or on a Java system or on a dual stack system, although SAP is fading out the dual stack systems overall. So that is the question on what kind of systems is the tool working on. The other question is what kind of scenarios does the tool offer? So what do we understand when we say system maintenance? And that is the maintenance scenario. First of all, the Software Update Manager is for updating the system. So maintenance could be a system upgrade. That would be a release change. So, for example, in the classical way from ERP 5.0 to 6.0 or BW, naming any number. It's also the tool for updates and support package stacks here. So updating, implementing support packages or enhancement packages in the classical world. It's also the tool to apply Java patches. As we have seen, it's a tool for ABAP and for potential Java systems. So Java patches can be applied with the tool as well. Then, as the second part here, the tool is capable to offer a migration. So it is possible for the tool to migrate a system from one source database type to a different database type. That we call DMO, database migration option, because it's a capability, it's an option of the tool to offer this migration. Please note that this term migration of database is listed in blue, and the reason is that this database migration is only offered for ABAP-based systems. So for ABAP-based systems, the tool can migrate, for example, an ERP system from running on MaxDB to SAP HANA database. That's what we call DMO. That's an option of the tool. Then another scenario is what we call the system conversion to SAP S/4HANA. Of course, you know, we have the classical world of business suite systems with ERP and CRM, and we have the new world of SAP S/4HANA. And one of the possible transition scenarios, one out of 3 scenarios, is what we call a system conversion. So taking one ERP source system, which is an ABAP-based system, and converting it to an SAP S/4HANA system. So that is based on ABAP systems. Again, that's why it's written in blue. And we will have a dedicated session on those 2 options in separate sessions later in this series. Another option that is for ABAP systems only is what we call customer transport integration. The options listed before are about updating the SAP software of an SAP system. But of course, customers may have their own development and they may introduce their own development cycles. So the software update manager can work on ABAP systems and apply a customer transport, so a kind of customer release. That is even possible without touching the SAP software level. That's what we call customer transport integration, or CTI. That's the first main list of the scenarios that the tool is supporting. On the following slide now, we're expanding that to tools and features that are offered by the software update manager. First point is what we call deployment optimization option. That is only for Java-based systems. And as you see, the deployment optimization option for Java systems is applied when we have moved from release 7.1 to 7.3 or higher. This little plus means higher releases. And the option allows to undeploy unnecessary Java components during the upgrade. Means if you have a Java-based systems and on the system you have deployed the Adobe Document Services, an example, and you would like to have the system without these services because you have deployed it somewhere else, then the software update manager allows to undeploy these components. That is just an example. Other components can be undeployed as well. The next tool or feature of the tool is what we call correction of installed software information. Sounds a bit strange. Why do we have to correct? And what is software information? Well, you know, an ABAP system, for example, consists of software components with versions and products and product instances and relationships. And there were some seldom situations where those relationships in the system as such were not correct. And the maintenance planner, the tool that is used to plan a maintenance or an upgrade, the maintenance planner offers a way to adjust those settings, and the software update manager will then be capable to apply this correction to the backend system as such. Further on, we have the benchmarking tool. Again, it's listed in blue, so it's for ABAP-based systems, and that is related to this option DMO, so the database migration option. If we use DMO, the database migration option, then typically you would adapt the software, the SAP software level, and migrate to, for example, HANA database in one step. So it's a combination, possibly. And now if you want to have your first experiences you want the tool only to focus on the migration part, and you do not want the tool to focus on the software update part. And that's why benchmarking is a good starting point to gain experience with migration and to adjust the configuration to speed up the migration. So you can use the benchmarking tool to, for example, only migrate a portion of the source database and see if there are potentially bottlenecks in your system setup. That is what we call the benchmarking tool, strongly related to this database migration option. Then, again, written in blue, we have the prerequisite check extended. Obviously, a check that checks prerequisites, and that is a check that is relevant mainly for a system conversion. So system conversion, again, you know, source system ERP, target SAP S/4HANA. So there are quite a number of preparations and checks to be done. And concerning this system, the software update manager will check if the system is capable to be converted. And now, instead of starting your first conversion run on the source and experiences then step by step what has to be adapted, it's a good practice to, instead of starting the real conversion, you start the prerequisite check extended. And this allows you to collect all the possible work items. So the tool will not stop if it finds an issue. It will just collect those and provide a list so that afterwards you can work on those items in parallel. So check for major blockers and list them. This prerequisite check extended will not execute the conversion as such, will not enter downtime. It will provide a list of those potential blockers. Last point on the slide is table comparison. So that is a rather exotic scenario. The database migration option of the software update manager anyhow offers you to switch on table comparison to see if there are no unexpected changes. But the tool can even be used for a scenario where another tool is used, software provisioning manager. And so you can use the software update manager scenario table comparison to validate tables for the case that you use the heterogeneous system copy of the software provisioning manager. These were the main scenarios and tools and features that the tool is offering. And for most of them, we have dedicated details sessions. I just want to point out that for ABAP-based systems, there are a variety of tools, and that's why we have listed here the comparison of the transaction S node of TCIs, SPAM, SAINT, and SUM. For an ABAP system, you use the transaction code S node in the system to apply SAP nodes. Of course, you are aware of this. That is a small adaptation. Then we have those transport-based correction instructions, TCI, for ABAP systems as well. They bundle SAP nodes to ease the process of applying several SAP nodes. Then we have the transaction SPAM SAINT. This allows to apply support packages and support package stacks on a higher level. So you apply a support package stack for a software component. And we, of course, have the software update manager that is capable to apply support packages and support packages stacks as well, and much more, as we have seen. But it's just that there are two tools that allow to apply support packages. And that's why we have listed this SAP node, where there is a comparison. When would you typically use software update manager, and when would you use SPAM SAINT specifically for applying support package stacks, not for the other scenarios that we had listed on the other SAP nodes. So this was the first section. Now let's come to the question, how do you use the software update manager? How do you get the tool? How do you start it? What will be to configure? So that is this section here, the availability of the tool. The tool is available in the service marketplace, in the download area. We have a central entry point in the support portal /SL toolset that holds all information relevant for software update manager for all the scenarios, linking guides, linking SAP notes, linking directly the download of the tool as well. And it's quite interesting to know that the software update manager is delivered as part of what we call the software logistics toolset. That is kind of bundling where also the software update manager is available. It's available since more than 10 years. It is available as part of the software logistics toolset. Again, it's a collection of tools obviously belonging to software logistics. Software provisioning manager is another example, prominent example of this toolset. And the software update manager is available if you use the maintenance planner to plan your update, upgrade of an existing system. Then the maintenance planner will not only provide the required software archives for the software components, but the maintenance planner will also provide the archive for the software update manager. That is a service of this tool. And finally, the software update manager is updated typically 3 times a year. So 3 times a year, we deliver a new version of the software update manager. We call this an SP version of the tool. The latest software logistics toolset, support package stack 33, is available since May this year, and it contains SAM 1.1 with support package 0 and the SAM 2.0 with support package 14. So obviously we have 2 SAM versions, and that's why we have a dedicated slide explaining what SAM 1.1 is used and what SAM 2.0 is used. So obviously they have their own SP counting, as you can see here on the slide. Again, the SAP support portal page on the software update manager explains these SAM versions, what these are used for. But again, we have a slide on comparing those tools. So how do you use the software update manager? Well, you would start the software update manager on the host of the application server. The software update manager is delivered as an archive. It's a software archive. As mentioned, maintenance planner is providing this as well, if you like. And you will download the archive. You will extract this archive typically on the primary application server host. That's the what we previously called the central instance. But you can as well extract the SUM archive on an additional application server host. There are reasons for this. There are specific conditions, but you can typically choose on which application server host you would extract the archive. And then the tool as such is nearly ready to be used. So the maintenance planner will provide the software update manager archive in the download basket. You will download this and extract it typically to USR, SAP, and then the SIT directory where you extract it. Then you have a SUM folder. In this folder here, you extract it with the user SIT ADM. You will have to configure the SAP host agent that is anyhow running on that application server host, because the host agent is relevant for the communication, as we will see. And then you start the software update manager from your client, from your PC. You open a browser window, you type in the URL targeting to the software update manager, and then the host agent will start the software update manager process on that application server host on which you have extracted it. So it's an archive, it's extracted. You do not really install the software update manager, it's just the extraction of the archive. That's the main step. Concerning the communication and that role of the host agent that I've mentioned here, that is illustrated on this slide, saying here in your customer landscape, you have the application server host, for example, where you have your primary instance running on primary application server. With the SAP system, you have extracted the software update manager. The host agent is running and is capable to do HTTP or better HTTPS communication. And that's what we are using on the PC. We open a browser. We direct the browser to the port of the host agent, and the URL contains those parameters that the host agent knows which software update manager to start. And then we have the communication, which is sorry, technically based on XML, but of course the SAP UI5 library here on the browser will convert this to HTML and will display this so that you can use this user interface of the software update manager on your PC. Overall, let's expand this picture and say, well, in the SAP portal, we have this maintenance planner as a service that you use to plan your update, upgrade, your maintenance. That will fill the download basket with the software archives, if you like, with the software update manager as well. You will download the required stack XML separately from the maintenance planner UI. That is a kind of recipe for the software update manager. And you will put this all into a download folder on the application server host where the software update manager is located typically. And then when you start the software update manager, the first question of the tool will be, where do I find the download? Where do I find this stack XML, this recipe that contains the information based on your choice in the maintenance planner? I would like to do an upgrade whatsoever to release. That is all stored in there, and the software update manager will read this information to know what to do. Now, I've mentioned that we have 3 times a year a new SP version of the software update manager. So let's have a short look on this. What version to use? So currently we have SP14 for SUM 2.0 available. And let's see here how the history was when we came out with SP13 of Software Update Manager 2.0. It was delivered with patch level 0. That means that's the initial delivery of the Software Update Manager. And then there may be cases where we have to fix something, and then we deliver a new patch level of SUM 2.0 SP13. So SP13 patch level 1, again, it's the full archive. It's not the case that you will have to patch your existing software update manager. No, you get SUM 2.0 SP13 patch level 1. You download this archive. It's the full SUM that you extract and use. And then it may be the case that we have a patch level 2 as well for SP13. And then in May, it was the case that we came out with SP14 of SUM 2.0, where again we had patch level 2. Patch level 0. But the patch level 2 of SP13 is no longer visible in the download area of the support portal. So you can then no longer download SUM 2.0 SP13 because we have SP14 out there, which starts with a new patch level 0. Nevertheless, it could be that there are specific projects that may need a patch for that as well. So it's possible that while we have a patch level for SP14, there may be seldom cases where we still patch the SP13. So that is called patch on request. Only if you have a running project where you have created an incident, then we may deliver this for the previous SP version as well, which again is an exception. And when you start fresh, you should always start with the latest SP version and the latest patch level as well. That is our recommendation. But in between those patch levels, we do not change the user interface. We do not change the scenarios, the sequence of dialogues or things like that. So that means in your project, you may use a newer patch level without impacting the experience of the basis administrators that are using the software update manager. Yeah, user interface, I've mentioned this, and the user interface is browser-based. We have already mentioned this. I have already mentioned this, and this is a point where I would very shortly would like to jump to this browser window that is the SP14, where we have the current patch level 5 available. That's the user interface. And the very first step, as I've mentioned, is the tool would like to get the roadmap, would like to know what to do. And that is, we would like to know about the scenario category. We specify the download directory, and then in there we can specify, I can use the input help here, the stack XML. That's the one that was provided by the maintenance planner, and then I can continue. This is user interface, but there are other scenarios as well. There are even some scenarios where there is no stack configuration file required. So this is possible as well. And that's why we have this option here as well. You can use, for example, the benchmarking where we do not need the stack, and then you would choose this one and say next, and then the tool will offer you those scenarios that do not require a stack. As I mentioned, the benchmarking is a favorite. My favorite, it's a famous scenario, but even DMO without system update. Let's think DMO means we combine the SAP software update with a database migration, but meanwhile, you can even do only the database migration without touching the SAP software. That's possible as well, and several other scenarios, but I'm going back to the initial part here, the entry screen where we can choose whether or not to use a stack XML. And you have direct possibility to check the log files of the tool without the need to log on to the operating system. You can set breakpoints and much more in here. So that's the user interface. That was a short jump to show a bit more than this screenshot here, the Software Update Manager user interface, at least for some 2.0. With this, we're coming to the third and last section, a short one. What else to consider? Well, of course, there are lots of details, but we have lots of other sessions on the Software Update Manager as well, focusing on specific scenarios. So right now, as promised, I would like to explain you why we have two Zoom versions, Zoom 1.1 and Zoom 2.0, and for which scenarios you will use one. Well, there was a point in time where we decided that we would like to come out with some 2.0 that is focusing on main scenarios, but still there are some remaining scenarios that are covered by some 1.0. So some 1.0 is the one version, the other one is 2.0. You see the metrics. It depends on the source and the target system, which of these tools is used. And for example, if we have a dual stack system, ABAP and Java on the same database, then it's always some 1.1 that is used. If we have an application server Java-based systems, then it's some 1.1 as well. It's only when we have an ABAP-based system that it depends on the target release whether or not to use some 1.1. So that is the complete picture. The major information is you use the SUM 2.0 if your target system is based on software component SAP basis 750 or higher. Then you use the Software Update Manager 1.1, it's 2.0, and it's only for ABAP-based systems. Whenever you have Java in the game, either a Java system or a dual stack system, it is a scenario for some 1.1. If you're targeting basis, ABAP sub-basis 750 and higher, you use SUM 2.0. And that means if we look at the S4HANA product family, SAP S4HANA is always based on at least 750, much higher. So for a system conversion from ERP to targeting S4HANA, you use SUM 2.0, no question. That's an easy game. A small mentioning here, ZDO, zero downtime option, uses SUM 2.0 as well. So there are some specifics here. Zero downtime option is one of those famous capabilities or options in the Software Update Manager to reduce the downtime. It's part of one of these follow-up sessions there as well. So that's the sequence, and you find this as a text on this SAP support portal page that I have advertised. And that brings me to the last slide here with the links for further information. First, on the Software Update Manager, you see both of the SUM versions have their SAP node, their central SAP node. These are the current ones. There's a community blog post that I've written some years ago, introduces the Software Update Manager as well. And I've mentioned that SUM tool is part of this, what we call software logistics tool set. It's a delivery package, so to say. And there are new versions as well that we frequently publish in the support portal as well. Concerning this software logistics toolset, that is the bundle. You see the central node, and you see this link that I strongly advertise, support.sap.com/SL-toolset. That's the landing page where you find all the relevant information for Software Update Manager as well, about some 1.1, about some 2.0, what is the available latest support package level, which SAP nodes are relevant, the guides, linking, blog posts, all that is important. So that's really a strong recommendation to use this SL toolset part. Let's put this in here in a short demo. So I enter this support.sap.com/SL toolset. To advertise this landing page, you see software logistics tools. You see the latest available software logistics tools support package stack. And then we have the area system maintenance, where you already find the overview, but a dedicated section here as well, where you find a direct link to download the Software Update Manager and the different scenarios of the tools again. So update, upgrade, database migration, system conversion, and zero downtime option. And we have a dedicated page. You see it's here listed here. This page, separate page for the Software Update Manager that I strongly recommend you. There we have listed all the SP versions and links as well, and explained the different scenarios: maintenance, database migration, conversion, customer transport, CZ, downtime optimization, and additional resources. So that is my last comment here. We strongly recommend you to use this landing page for the tool set. And that was the introduction, the overview on the scenarios of the Software Update Manager, while advertising the following scenarios and especially sessions on the dedicated scenarios of Software Update Manager. With this, thank you very much. Handing back to Larissa, and let's see if we have questions on those topics.
Thank you, Boris, very much for your very nice and detailed presentation. And we have one question in the chat asking, do we document known issues with Zoom?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, well, obviously, it's a complex tool, different scenarios, so there may be some issues with the tool, and you as a customer, as a partner in the project will create an incident. And if these things happen, then we document this in the central SAP node. So the strong recommendation is, before you start a project, you will read through this SAP node, and of course, you read through the guide of the Software Update Manager, but such issues where we may have a workaround as a temporary solution, this is listed in this SAP node as the central node for the respective Software Update Manager, where you find a workaround. And even if a newer patch level of the tool has solved this issue, could be that you are still on a lower patch level of the tool, and this workaround is still available and listed in the SAP node. So then you can decide whether to work with a workaround or you use the newer patch level of the tool instead, where this may be fixed. Thank you.
Okay, I can see several more questions in the chat, but before we move on, could you please place a link to the central node to the chat of our Zoom call, and I will take it from there and place it in the chat for the convenience of our listeners.
Okay, I will put this into the chat so that you can provide it.
Very good. Then I can move on with the questions. The next one is TV can be used for add-on installation, or is better to use this hand? I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just typing the link to the central node in the chat of our session. Thank you. Yeah, that is what we have discussed, what I have explained. There are different tools, and especially for add-ons and support package stacks, there is the Saint transaction, and that can be used to apply or to to install add-ons, but the software update manager allows this as well. So again, that is one scenario where we have two tools, the software update manager and Spam Saint. Well, it depends on whether you would like to combine additional maintenance activities, then you use the software update manager. And if this is downtime critical, then of course the software update manager has more features than this Saint, but it's possible to, in general, it's possible to use both of them. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much. The next question is, how does the prerequisite check extended differs from the already existing and integrated prerequisite checker? What extra items or dependencies does it cover?
Yeah, very good. Maybe I take the time to shortly jump back to my software update manager user interface just to show it what is meant with this question. I'm proceeding here just to show that the second dialog of the tool offers this prerequisite check tool, and there is a prerequisite check and there's a prerequisite check extended. And now the good question is, what's the difference? The prerequisite check, so the first option, is already existing since quite a while. That's a very reduced scope. This check is only checking whether the operating system and the database versions are sufficient and whether the spam level in ABAP is sufficient. So that's a very short, quick, but reduced scope. It's a quick check. And that's why we came out with a prerequisite check extended, that especially for a system conversion, but meanwhile also for upgrading and updating S/4HANA. So if you have an S/4HANA system and you would like to run an upgrade, you can use this as well. This is nearly executing all the uptime phases. It's not entering the downtime. It's not executing the conversion as such, but it is a broader scope. It will list you also if the operating system and database version is not sufficient. It will list you whether you have adaptations required in software component assignment, so TADIA check. It will list you whether there are simplification items for the conversion that are not yet adapted. These are some examples, and this is an extended check. It takes longer to execute, but is a good starting point that we strongly recommend it. It's not required, but it's recommended. And now to finish up, you didn't ask for this, but prerequisite check extended without target database even. So imagine a scenario, you have an ERP source system on MaxDB. You would like to convert the system to SAP S/4HANA. You are in an early project phase where the HANA database host and software has not been provided yet, but you are eager to run this check. You can run the check even if the HANA target database is not yet provided, just to see the first results of this. Of course, this run will not show you the potential blockers concerning HANA database, but it's an offering that we meanwhile have. Thank you for asking.
Thank you very much. I hope Mark is satisfied with those answers, and I will move on to the next question. Will it be possible to change the SID while performing a S/4HANA conversion?
Yeah, thank you. Important answer is no. What does it mean? System conversion takes one ERP source system and converts it to S/4HANA. And I always say start and target, but it's one system, and the standard conversion does not change the system ID. It's kept. The standard conversion, like most of the scenarios of the software update manager, are kind of in-place procedure. So you have an ERP system with application server host and database, and those application servers are not changed. So it is still the same system with the same system ID. And that's why the answer is no, it's not possible to change the system ID during a system conversion with the software update manager. And as an additional answer, if we have only the migration case, so saying ERP on MaxDB shall be still an ERP, but we would like to migrate to HANA database. Is possible. That would be DMO. There, it's neither possible to change the system ID. And for the experts, that's different to what the software provisioning manager offers. There you can change the system ID. Thanks for the question.
Thank you very much. I can't see additional questions in the chat. Again, to the audience, if you have some questions, please state them now. So Boris, our expert for today's session, can answer them live. If there will be no more questions, I would like to mention that the session today, Software Update Manager session, is part of SAP Cloud Lifecycle Management series, webcast series. And I will place in the chat the link to all upcoming sessions because Boris will give at least, I think, 5 or 6 more sessions in September and October. And I would like to share the schedule with you and hope you can, you can join some of our upcoming sessions. And as Boris, we will be offering various deep dive sessions on various aspects of software update. So I can't see more questions in the chat. I assume that everything was clear, and if not, please do not hesitate to check the same link that you used today for a live stream, because I will be publishing the information, the slides of Boris, and I will be also publishing the link to his blog. So I have one more question in the chat. For SAP GTS on SQL to HANA migration, do we have any pre-checks with SAM?
No, we do not have pre-checks for the handling of GTS Global Trade Services. That is the pre-check extended are for S/4HANA. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So let's give a few more seconds for the participants to give their feedback. If there is no more comments and questions in the chat, first of all, I would like to thank you, all the attendees of today's session. Thanks for your questions, and thanks for staying tuned to all the topic connected to the SAP Cloud Lifecycle Management topics. And of course, I would like to thank you, Boris, for his presentation. And I'm very glad to have him in our upcoming sessions. And I really hope to have you also as attendees in those sessions. Most of the sessions will be in September and October. And yes, I'm excited to welcome you in those sessions. With this, thank you very much and bye-bye.
Bye.